Alright, on my end I've started a stream. I can't tell if it's displaying anywhere else. Hey, look at that. It's a fat guy in front of a monitor. So, now I'm going to read to you. I might want to go tell somebody in the world that I'm on here. I might, but running a stream while my wife streams Netflix in the living room means that my Facebook is loading slow. But we'll drop a little note. Yeah, that's my laundry in the back and Kleenex. And if I do more of this, I'll think about cleaning up the office and figure out how to make my nose itch less. Maybe. Come on, fuckers, give me the opportunity to post something. Alright, so change of plans. I decided to read some of the new Harker because it's brand new and I want to check it out. See what people think. Oh man, stretch, settle in. The idea is that I'll read a chapter, and if anybody pops in to say hi, they can say hi. And otherwise, I'll have the video for later. Quincy Harker, Demon Hunter, Book 5. As yet untitled, because I haven't figured out a title yet. Chapter 1. It all went to shit when the dork with the shitty mustache found me. I was sitting in Zeke's place, a blues bar in Memphis with cold beer, hot waitresses, and a clientele that didn't intrude on a man's God-given right to get drunk in peace. I wasn't drunk, though. It takes a lot to get me there, even with Zeke's high-octane enhanced beer, and I needed to keep my wits about me. I was working, after all. This night, working meant sitting at a small table in the back of the bar with my back wedged into a corner and a clear view of the whole place laid out in front of me. Zeke's wasn't a huge joint. Exactly 15 round tables bolted to the floor in very specific placements to make 3 pentacles around the bar, each with 5 chairs around them. You had to be in the place for a while and be seriously attuned to magical energy to see the pattern of the tables, and even more perceptive to catch the fact that the ceiling lamps were situated precisely above the tables, duplicating the lines of power on the floor. The layout, along with the silver filigree on the crown molding, the salt sprinkled along the baseboards, and the building's placement on the end of a pier sticking out over the Mississippi River, all combined to make Zeke's one of the most magically inert places I'd ever been in, outside of a binding circle. I liked it that way. I'd had plenty of magic in my life for a while and was looking for some place to decompress. When an imp in Georgia who owed me a favor told me about this blues joint in Memphis where nobody could cast spells, I decided it had been too long since I had some cool blues and smoking ribs, so I rolled north to Tennessee. Zeke knew who I was the second I walked in his silver-clad door, of course. It's been a minute since I didn't get recognized by most of the supernatural community, at least the power players. He glared at me the whole walk from the door to the bar stool, then slid a mug of dark, foamy beer in front of me. You're the one they call Reaper. Yeah, that's been said once or twice. You planning on causing any trouble in my bar? Nah. I didn't say anything else. He didn't ask. That became one of my favorite things about Zeke, his ability to leave it the fuck alone. I sat on that bar stool drinking his home brew like it was my job, and when the night came to a close, I paid my tab and asked if he knew any place warded that had vacancies. How long you looking to stay? I don't know yet. Going to depend on if I find work and some place to stay. Thought you were loaded. Circumstances change. I didn't feel like telling this guy I just met that after returning from hell, I walked away from my money, my friends, my family, and the woman I loved because I was number one on Lucifer's shit list, and every demon in the material plane was going to be after me for the rest of my unnaturally long life. Even if he was a good bartender, I didn't unburden that easy. I could use a bouncer, Zeke said, drawing a pint glass with the towel hanging from his waist. I'd been watching him clean the bar with that same towel for about 6 hours, so I really questioned the efficacy of his dishwashing at that point, but held my tongue. Hey, a werewolf walking up behind my right shoulder protested. You got a bouncer. Me. I raised a fist, bloodying the pup's nose, then got off my stool. I kicked him in the balls while his hands were clapped to his face, then planted a right on his temple when he doubled over. The werewolf dropped like a sack of flour and lay on the sawdust-covered floor, snoring little blood bubbles into the dirt. I'll take it, I said. Job come with a room? Zeke grinned at me. Downstairs. Door on the back wall of the storeroom. It ain't much. Just a bed, a dresser, and a bathroom. But it's even more warded than the rest of the place, and there's a trap door that drops out into the river if things go sideways. He reached for a key hanging on a post behind the bar and tossed it to me. We open at 4. Be sober by then. I'm sober now, I said, picking up my backpack from the floor beside me. Thanks. Thank me after you've lived through a Saturday night, Zeke said with a grin. Some of the scraps in here are hell. Pretty sure they're not, I said. I gave him a little wave over my shoulder as I walked to the stairs. He wasn't lying. The apartment was about as bare bones as anything I'd ever seen, but I'd slept it worse. The bed wasn't too lumpy, and while my feet hung off the end a little and it wasn't my California king, it was fine. Zeke wasn't lying about the wards either. The key granted me passage, but when I let my sight drop over my eyes like a veil, the whole room glowed with lines of red, green, and black. Anything coming into this room without a key would have to be either patient or more powerful than anything I'd ever faced. Well, almost anything. I sat on the bed, reached into my backpack, pulling out a cell phone and a folded picture. I double-checked the battery was still out of the phone and set it on the small dresser. Dresser was a pretty kind word for a stack of pressboard drawers that made IKEA look like Chippendale furniture. But it was enough to hold my spare pair of jeans, 4 pair of socks, 4 shirts, and 4 pair of underwear. Then I kicked off my Doc Marten boots, sat on the bed with my back and shoulders pressed to the wall, and stared at the picture of the dark-skinned woman with long brown curls, regretting every life choice that took me away from her until sleep finally claimed me around dawn. Since that night, I'd been a fixture at Zeke's, busting heads when I needed to, smoothing ruffled feathers when that was called for, making a dumb joke to diffuse a fight when that worked better. I was enjoying the work, enjoying the music, and even enjoying the people. Well, employees. People might be a bit of a strong word. Zeke's was a sanctuary, a place where all types of humans, monsters, and interdimensional beings could come in, have a drink, and be protected by the rule of don't start nothing, won't be nothing. That meant that you have a lot of supernaturals on the payroll. There was me with my part vampire sliver of demon origin. There was Zeke, and I wasn't sure exactly what he was, but I had a sneaking suspicion there was a pair of white wings tucked away somewhere under his faded AC/DC t-shirt. Angelique was the succubus waitress who let her tail snake out from under her miniskirt and wasn't shy about using it to slap patrons who let their hands wander from their long necks to her long legs. The house band were all werecats of one breed or another, from house cat to tiger. Their hearing and reflexes made them the perfect group to improvise together, and they made a game out of trying to push somebody off the beat. I'd never seen anybody win so much as a point. Then there was Henry, the werewolf I'd decked to get my job. He turned into a pretty good second once his nose healed. But since I didn't need much backup, he spent most nights hauling kegs up the stairs for Zeke. As far as anybody but Zeke and the rest of the staff knew, I was Eddie Nolan, a half-fae from Manchester, hiding out from the winter court. I grew out my hair, grew a beard, and worked pretty hard at burying Quincy Harker deep in my past. It was the best way I could come up with to protect the people I loved back in North Carolina. It only took me one fight to prove that I was enough of a badass to bounce the preeminent bar for monsters, demons, and angels in West Tennessee, even without my spells. Yeah, my magic wouldn't work in the bar. With all the wards, silver, and salt in the room, it was hard to touch any magic at all. Then being over running water completely cut me off from being able to tap a ley line or anything else. The good news was that nobody else could conjure so much as a sparkler either, so at least we were on pretty even footing. I was standing at one end of the U-shaped bar, keeping an eye on the place, when I saw Angelique spin around and belt a big bastard in the face with her tail. The point of the appendage left a long red line down the dude's face, so I could tell from across the room that she was pissed. Angie has incredible fine motor skills, even with her tail. So if she drew blood, she meant to. And that meant that Big Boy had crossed a line. I pushed off the wall and waved Henry off. Now that I saw the guy on his feet, I pegged him for a low-level soldier demon, no deeper than third circle. He'd be strong, but stupid, and not fast enough to be a real problem. Unless he was. Then I'd want Henry to be able to jump in and back me up. I hoped he could get all that from a hand wave and a head shake, but I wasn't holding my breath. Henry's strong, but he ain't the sharpest knife in the drawer. I heard Angie cursing the guy in poorly pronounced Enochian as I walked up, which sounds a lot like somebody gargling with lava while skipping rope. I held up a hand to stave off the flow of profanity before she managed to accidentally curse one of us, and she pointed up at the guy. "This asshole decided to run his hand up my skirt." The demon looked down at me, which doesn't happen all that often. But this behemoth was taking full advantage of Zeke's high ceilings with his 7-foot frame. He flashed me a grin, showing me a couple of short fangs in the process. I just wanted to see if the tail was real, or if she was just a poser. You couldn't have just asked. I stopped in front of him and hooked my thumbs in the front pockets of my jeans. She might lie. Or you might see the yellow eyes with vertical pupils and see she's really got abyssal parentage. Or you could try for a free ass grab and hope she just let it slide. That's not how it works. I turned to Angie. "How much is this tab?" "$36. That's his third Patron with a Corona back." I looked back to the dumbass demon. "Drop $50 on the table and get out." You're out for a week. Fuck you. He didn't move. I didn't expect him to. So you're the guy, huh? What guy? The guy the regulars decided should try out the new bouncer and see if I'm as tough as Henry. Fine. I knew it was coming. Just kind of hoped it wouldn't be on my first night. But let's get it out of the way. I didn't bother talking anymore. I just made a knife edge out of my fingers and jabbed them into his solar plexus. The great thing about demons taking on human physiognomy is that they have all the human weak points, too. He doubled over, clutching his gut, and I swung for the fences, putting everything I had into an uppercut meant to end the fight in one massive punch. It didn't. It broke a couple bones in my hand and turned dumbass's nose into paste, but he just sat down on his ass on the floor, shook his head twice, blew a giant bloody booger onto the floor, then grinned up at me. "Let's dance, motherfucker," he said, springing to his feet like I'd never laid a finger on him. Looked like my new job wasn't going to be all glitz and glamour after all. That is Chapter 1 of Harker Book 5. That is the first draft of Chapter 1 of Harker Book 5. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll come back and hang out again. And I hope that the sound was okay on all of this, because I'm still figuring shit out. So I'll continue trying to work through the bugs, and you guys have a good afternoon. Or evening, whenever you're reading this. Whatever. Bye.